So Herbert is going to try to make us brighter for a change. So, Herbert, great to have you on board. We are headed
Thank you so much.
into earnings this week, and you and I have spent so much time talking about earnings on our two channels, Brighter with Herbert and this channel, that we thought maybe we'd switch it up a little bit and talk about what happens Thursday. And I don't mean what does the stock do on Thursday, but we'll basically be kind of looking at the second half of the year. And it seems as if the potential for crazy stuff happening the second half of this year is unparalleled in the history of any company ever. Now, Elon Musk famously said that Tesla had the greatest lineup of new products of any company on the market today. And I think we could add maybe in history. What do you say, Herbert?
Oh, absolutely. I'm so pumped. I really am so pumped. And I know that you and I are one of the more optimistic bulls out there for Tesla, but it's understandable. Many of us are still a little gun shy because of what happened in 2022, and we're not allowing ourselves to get too excited. But when you take a look at the list, when you just stop and think about what's coming in the next 6 months, like you said, this is the biggest step change. Just the announcements will keep coming. There's going to be some big giant things that are happening because it's taken Tesla since 2003 when they were first formed. They're very slow. 2012 when they launched the Model S, things have been very slow. 2018 when they launched the Model 3 feels still very much you have to wait months before you start. Just wait until the next gigafactories are launched and wait till they come alive. Well, this is it. We're at the inflection curve. All these things that's been built, the supercharging network, all these things are starting to come to fruition. Let's go through that list and let's get very excited about what's coming in the next 6 months.
Yeah, and you and I did a video, I think, on your channel, I think maybe 2 weeks ago, where we talked about the fact that if any one of these things actually happens, it's going to be, but now you've
They're
got
all going to happen,
four or five
but they're
things.
all going to happen.
I
I
know.
don't even know why people say this. Like we do say this. I say this. We go, if only just one of these happened, we're going to be excited. But the reality is, they're all going to
All going to
happen,
happen.
right? Like, why aren't what's like it's like. Okay, let's go through each one of them and like, what's the risk that they will not happen,
Put
right?
it up on the screen. Let's see what you got.
All right. So, as most people know, that I am one of the what do you call this? Let's go through here. This.
You're technologically. Oh, there we go. You did it.
Yeah, we did it. Yeah.
So
So
you're famous for
people,
milestones. You're famous
milestones.
for milestones.
And I hope to continue. In fact, Randy, the first time I'll announce it here, I'm going to expand what I do, not just focusing on milestones. These are the kind of like a big events that happen that's going to be important for the business of Tesla. And some of them are catalysts. They're important for the stock. But what I'm going to start doing is I'm tracking moments, Tesla moments.
Tesla.
And I'm going to have the most comprehensive list of everything that happens that are important just to keep history, because I think we're witnessing history in the making. And so I'm going to be launching that as a service to people. They can come into a website and be able to see every single thing that's ever happened to Tesla. And then you'll have links to the URL, to articles, you'll have pictures, you'll have the key point moments that happen, because we are in history and we're going to look back. And now I'm excited that I'm part of this whole thing. So
isn't that right? I mean, part of the fun of doing the channel, of writing the books, is the fact that we're chronicling the greatest company in the history of the world and the greatest, the greatest in what's the entrepreneur? That's the word I'm looking for. The greatest entrepreneur in history. So it's amazing to be just kind of involved in, at this level, the chronicling of the story. That's great. I'm really excited for you, what you're going to be doing. All right, cool.
Oh, it's exciting. Okay, so this is the list of 2023. Notice it's 2 columns now, Randy. It used to be just like 1 column. And I'm predicting to you, I'm telling you, 2024 is going to be 3 columns. 2025 is going to be 4 columns. Like, I won't be able to put it in here because every business that we're talking about will have their own, milestones that are going to be knocking out of the park. So this is getting out of hand, isn't it? So if you take a look at, we're now in July 19th, which is this Wednesday, we're going to see their Q2 earnings call. Okay. And like we've all been saying, we're not sure that this is going to be a catalyst for the stock. Not everything here is a catalyst. There really are just milestones that is going to be hit. And the key thing about this milestone is that usually when you have an earnings, if you do care about the stock, and I look back in all the years, and it's always the stock skyrockets after the earnings calls. And
Not the
when
day
the earnings
after.
calls, not the day after, the next several months, and it's sustained. And the reason usually is that you're seeing growth in the volume of cars and production, and then they give guidance of where they're headed towards. And so I'm not sure that this is one of those that's going to do that. It certainly has a potential, especially since we're all looking forward to the Cybertruck launch, right?
Right.
But we're so excited about the Cybertruck. We're so excited about AI Day and others. We're forgetting that Model 3 Highland, it seems like old news now, but all the signs are pointing that there's going to be Model 3 Highland announced maybe in the next several months. Who knows when that will happen? But that, as you and I have documented, we think is a big deal. It can open up a whole new segment that's going to be competitive in the sedan market. That's going to be bigger than the truck market. So everybody's so pointed at the Cybertruck when I believe that the Model 3 might actually be bigger if they truly do position it as its own segment, separate it out from the Model Y. It could be a big deal. So that is on hold, but that's the one I'm expecting to come out next, actually. Okay. Right. And of course, we now do think that the Cybertruck, it shouldn't be Q3. We do think it's going to happen September. And the reason why I put in Q3 is I had no idea of what's going to happen. But now that we saw the Cybertruck photo that they released this weekend, showed the very first Cybertruck built. If you look at what happened with Model Y, the very first time that the Model Y, that same similar photo was published, 2 months later, that's when the first delivery of the Model Y was handed off to customers. And so I think it's safe to say that we're expecting the Cybertruck launch to happen in September or October, right?
Yep.
And then, of course, AI Day 3. I have that as a big deal. I think it's a big deal that's going to happen in September. I think it's a really massive, important event because this entire year has been shaped by the boom of AI and the advancement in the AI tools, as shown by the hundreds and hundreds of companies that are popped up, just doing amazing things that's showing the public for once and for all that AI can actually be very, very productive, useful for you. And so, we're going to see Tesla making a very big deal with AI Day 3. They have to. AI Day 3 is about attracting the best minds in the world, and you can't lose the sharpest machine learning experts out there to other companies like ChatGPT or Google's DeepMind or other places. They need to be impressed by what Tesla's doing.
So I'm only gonna caveat you on that one and say that if the Cybertruck comes out in September, which I think it will, I think AI Day 3 is going to have to be like last year, the end of October, only to give it some separation.
Agreed. Yep. Okay, so that's a good point, actually. Yeah, I will agree with that. I think it could probably be more likely October, and it'll buy them more time, but they need to prove it. And so you and I have been saying that AI Day 3 is going to be talking about the progress that they did with Dojo, which they already let slip a little bit because they needed to show people that they have the largest supercomputer in the world. It's going to be 100 exaflops, which is 20 times larger than the largest supercomputer in the world by the end of next year. And it's already in production. But what they're going to show is the bot. That's the best way to show. And, we've been doing a lot of videos dissecting what Ashok Elaswamy, who's the director of Autopilot, did. He did a presentation 3 weeks ago, and he basically showed that there is massive, massive improvement. They have figured it out. And what they figured out was all the work that they've been doing was the slow way, which was, creating these neural networks, and they had separate neural networks, one to identify stop signs, one to identify kind of how to do proper parking, things like that, And they realized that, and then they would label them, and then they would auto-label it. First, they would label it manually, and then they would teach this computer to label. Well, what they figured out was now that they have the new tools, just like the language learning models have been able to show, they just removed all of that, and they just let this new computer create a general world model on its own, run it by itself, and take all the videos and let it teach itself. And by itself, it taught itself that what they're looking at is 3-dimension. And so they can now determine distance. it taught itself that, oh, those are paper and I can drive through paper, or that's fog, I can drive through fog. It is teaching itself. And so they did not need to do. Now, Dr. John Gibbs of Dr. Know-It-All
Yes.
basically said they needed to do all the work that they did in the past because that sets a baseline for this thing to then
Sure.
learn from.
Sure.
But this is learning way faster than anything ever. So AI day 3 is going to be a big deal, and bots is going to be able to do things that's it's going to be able to. It's a best way for them to showcase what is the capabilities of their AI system. Is that's just much more exciting to see a bot doing things and you telling it to pick up the apple, to pick up to grab the vacuum cleaner and start vacuuming.
And then if
they
they
will do that.
and then if
Yeah.
they announce Dojo as a service at the same time, that
I don't think so. I don't think so. So you're a little ahead. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably not likely. I think they need everything set up first for their own use, and that will come later. But yeah.
All right. So Tesla Energy. Well, wait, Cybertruck launch, of course, and then Tesla Energy.
See, again, this is a big deal, right? So we have been saying for the last 6 months, right, haven't we, that Tesla's not an AI company, not a car company, not just a car company, that we're an energy company. And now we've moved on.
Yes, the AI company that does robotics. Yeah. Right.
Now we're talking about Tesla's an AI company. We're doing a Tesla bot. We're doing FSD. When Tesla's an energy company, it's almost like a done deal, but the world will know that when they can actually start reporting on it. And so Zach Kirkhorn had announced in a last earnings call that they pretty confident that by Q3 at least, or for sure Q4, that they will start reporting on energy production, deliveries, and so forth. And that means that it's significant, that it's I mean, they could show the ramp up. And so when they start reporting on energy, there's going to be a narrative change. People will no longer be able to call Tesla just a car company. Now, they might still say that 95% of your revenue is automobiles and energy needs to catch up, but it's significant. It's going to be at the 5% or higher. And it's just symbolically saying, yeah, we're reporting on energy because it's a line item now. So it's a big deal. Yeah.
So you've got, after that, you've got the Lathrop Megapack ramp. Now, you're assuming then that this is when the new equipment comes in that provides them with the balance of the other 5,000 a year capability. So, and I think it was that Ferguson that that thought that that's when that product is coming in. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so again, Lathrop popped out of nowhere. Took them 9 months from groundbreaking to actually launch. Bradford Ferguson and a bunch of people drove to Lathrop. They actually staked it out for 7 days, watching it for 24 hours a day to see how many megapacks were being delivered out of there. And I did an interview with him, and we showed off his entire research that he did. This was way back in April, May. And he was predicting that by this month, by the end of this year, you're going to see Lathrop already in full production. And we know that they've already announced the Shanghai Megapack factory. So we're waiting for that announcement they're going to do groundbreaking there. And that will pop up very soon. But everything's pointing out that there's no delay in the Lathrop ramp. And so we're just wanting confirmation that this is now at its peak. Do you know the number that Bradford Ferguson has announced that his estimates are? And he's actually a little bit more conservative than others. He says that by the end of this year, energy is going to make up $2 billion in profit for Tesla. Yeah. When most analysts have been saying that that's not going to something show up until 2025.
Right.
And he knows because he's been tracking this. And so if they can show that Lathrop is already in the full ramp, full ramp already happening, then it just really bodes well for the future of Tesla.
Right. So new gigafactories announced. Everybody seems to want to know about this. I get a lot of questions in my comments. Of course, it's looking like India, but I don't know. Do you think that India could have an announcement before the end of the year?
Yeah. So we know that Elon has said that they're very likely going to announce new gigafactories before the end of this year. But we just heard today, this morning, right? We heard that Giga Germany Berlin is going to be expanding to double their production to 1 million cars per year. They're going to double it by 500,000 per year. So they're going to continue to expand these gigafactories. And then we've been hearing hot and heavy all these different countries that he's visiting. We don't know which one, but it's sure, again, you're hearing it over and over again. And just this yesterday, we saw more news that India. I'm not convinced that it's India is going to be the next to announce, but something will be announced definitely by the end of the year for Gigafactory.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Beyond expansions. But even more than that will be megapack factories. I don't know if did you see this analysis by Jordan Gasigi of the limiting factor?
I absolutely did. Watch the entire thing. Yes.
So his theory, right? Did you see that? His theory is that if you look at every single country, all the world leaders that Elon has been visiting, and it turns out that they are the top 10 world economies, except for Japan. Is the Japan out of the 10, 9 out of 10, he has visited and shook hands with the world leader. And the reason is because it's megapacks, right? Because he said that megapacks, it's unlikely you can have one giant giga factory for the megapacks. Instead, you're going to have little megapack factories in every one of these countries. And that's why he's going around there. There's going to be one in France. There's going to be one in Spain. There's going to be one in Italy. There's one in South Korea. That's why he's meeting with all of those. And it makes sense because he said that they're very heavy and the transportation costs are big. And so, and of course, you're going to want your utility in your local region. And so it's almost like guaranteed that that's what's happening, right? He's signing deals for megapack factories everywhere.
Yeah, I always hate to brag. You know me, I hate to brag, but I did do a video, I think it was about 3 months ago, where I said that they would either be putting these megapack factories near production or they would be putting them near the customer because of the weight, and suggested that, if they can put them near the deposit where the mines are going to be or where the refineries are, or create refineries near existing mines, or put them near the customers. So yes, I agree with you. I think that was amazing that he came up with that idea, that's why he's been going around talking to these leaders.
Yeah. But it was eerie when you see the 9 out of 10. It's the only one he hasn't visited Japan. Why has he been going around shaking hands and meeting with every one of them? And that's why. It makes sense.
Yep.
It makes so much sense. Other than gigafactories, we're going to see megapack factories announced.
Yes.
Yeah, which I've got down here too. Megapack factories in Q4. I'm probably going to raise that up higher. And of course, we're going to see the Giga Nuevo Leon groundbreaking. I initially pushed it off to October because we had heard rumors that it wasn't really rumors. It was the governor of Giga of Nuevo Leon in Mexico, and he had come out 3 weeks ago. And he said that everything's delayed by 12 to 14 weeks. And so I moved it to October.
Yeah.
And of course, last week, he came back out again and said all the permits, all of the water approvals, everything has been on track. And it's almost very close to completion, finalized. And at any day now, we can have Tesla announcing that they're going to do a groundbreaking. So just very positive words, which means that Giga Mexico was not delayed at all. It was Brian White from My Tesla Weekend was pointing out to me that it was supposed to be in June. Now we're the second week of July. So it's been delayed by a couple of weeks or maybe a month, which is like nothing in all the scheme of things. And in fact, what it might mean is nothing because we're back to the Giga Mexico being launched in Q4 instead of Q1 of 2025.
Right. Yes.
So that's going to be a big deal. And of course, we're going to have the Q3 numbers, volume and deliveries. And so you and I have been talking about earnings call, and many people are expecting that the Q2 will be the trough for the margins, but everything's pointing that Q3 and Q4, we're going to get back to higher margins. We're going to have bigger volumes in delivery. Do you think that there is a demand issue? Like when you hear that all these legacy car companies are having troubles with inventory, which we reported was through the roof. It's double the inventory days on hand compared to the gas cars. So the EVs of legacy companies is double, 95 versus 44.
Right.
But is this an issue because people don't want to buy EVs, or people don't want to buy the legacy manufacturers EVs, but they still want to buy Tesla? So that's
So,
the
I do have a quick theory that I'll throw out to you right there, and you probably know this already. I'm probably, but maybe the crowd doesn't. And that is, I think over and over again, what we've heard coming back is that the number one thing that's interfering with the sale of the other car companies' cars is the lack of a good infrastructure, a lack of charging. And I think that we have to give Mary and and Ford, what's his name, Jim Farley. We have to give them both credit that they heard that coming back from their customer base, and so they cut the deal. Well, pretty soon they're going to hear a lot more coming back from their customer base about things like over-the-air updates, and then eventually full self-driving. So they better get on the phone and start arranging for those as well.
yeah. I wouldn't doubt that at all. I think somebody pointed out that really only Ford had 200,000 EVs on sale, and so they were probably getting hammered by phone calls saying, "This is, I bought your car, love the car, but I can't charge it," and the EV America is just terrible, right? 50% or 60% of the stalls that they go to is not functional, and it's so difficult to use the app and so forth. And so that's why Ford was one of the first to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the volume and deliveries production on October, the first week of October, when that comes out, it's going to be a big number. It'll be a big driver for everything. I'm pretty convinced that that's the case.
Absolutely.
The Q3 earnings call, I think it's going to be a big deal at this point. As I just said at the beginning, earnings is when things happen. And by this point, you're going to see, movement, obviously Model Y, but maybe a revised Model 3. You've got the Cybertruck, small numbers, won't be a big deal, but it's going to start showing that it's we've got a new product that's going to awaken people with a whole new TAM that's available for Tesla. And so I think the earnings call will be just like what I think somebody was saying, right? Remember when you see the stock, when does it take massive jumps? It happened obviously when the Model 3 was launched, and then it happened when the Model Y was launched. And so it's very likely it's going to happen when the Cybertruck is launched.
Yes, you would think.
No, it will. It will definitely happen. And then you've got FSD. So, it's hard to not be bullish about FSD. People think that I'm driving FSD beta. I see it make all these mistakes. Don't talk to me until it's, doesn't blow another stop sign. It's going to be 2 to 3 years from now. Based on what I've seen in the last year, I've seen it progress. It has progressed, but there's just so many edge cases. Do you not know what the 99s after 99? It's got so many edge cases. Well, what you're not paying attention to is this new technology that they just announced and shared. And Ashok said in the Q&A, he said, this technology will likely get into, I see it getting into customers' hands by the end of this year. And what it is this ability for the system to learn on its own. So I don't know, I probably worth repeating what happened to the game of Go by Google's DeepMind.
Well, it's not just Go. It was chess, it was Go, and now it's ChatGPT, which they're basically feeding the content back into ChatGPT and asking and having the content teach the
the Go example is the best example of what actually happened. So what happened there was Google was obviously trying to teach an AI system to beat humans in playing this game of Go. And they chose Go instead of chess because they'd already beaten chess, years ago. But Go is the most difficult game in the world because apparently there's as many moves as there are atoms in this earth.
Right.
It's impossible, right? And so what they initially did was they fed Go, the system, humans playing against humans. And so that the system can learn how humans think and what strategies that they're playing. And then the system would learn from all these videos of humans playing humans, and then it would start playing against humans. And of course, it ended up becoming the best player, beating the best human player in Go. Then later, they started with this thing called AlphaGo. And what they decided to do was do not do anything. Don't teach it anything. You just share with it the information about how the game will go, what the objective is. And the system learned it in 17 days. And not only learned how to play, it beat it's far superior than being the best human player in the previous Go system.
Right.
And this Go, so the computer is massive computers that will play itself against each other. And so you can have like a million iterations in a day.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
by the afternoon, I think they said that, it was like a terrible, it was doing stupid moves like a toddler would in the first hours. But by the afternoon, it was, whatever, better than an 8-year-old. And by the next day, blah, 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 blah. And within 17 days, it had it better than anyone ever.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Because it can do sheer numbers.
Absolutely amazing. I really have quite, I'm already an optimist, but I have become very optimistic about the idea that FSD may actually finally be around the corner, so to speak.
Oh, it is. No, because they already said that this new system on its own figured out 3 dimensions.
Yeah.
They didn't need to teach it 3 dimensions.
Yeah.
And it can determine the size of a curb.
Yeah.
2 centimeters.
Yeah.
So just by vision, they don't need LiDAR, and it's even more accurate than LiDAR. And then just the system alone. So you know how they had Occupancy Network?
Yeah.
Occupancy Network was basically using the 8 cameras of the car. It could tell whether a space is occupied by some physical object or not.
Right.
And then it can then be able to decide, and it's interactive in our cars now. It'll do evasive maneuvers because, okay, that's something that's occupied. They don't have to label it. They just know that it's occupied. And so I should not drive there, right? The problem with that system is what happens if there's fog.
Yeah.
Well, fog, the pixels are all filled with something. Yeah. And so the system thinks that that's occupied. I better not drive through it. Or what if there's papers flying? Yeah. That's occupied. I better not hit that. That's a solid object. This system on its own figured it out by itself. That's fog, I can drive through that. That's paper, I can drive through that. Yeah. Okay. So this whole thing about people saying that there's these 9, right? This the March of Nines.
March of Nines,
because of these millions of edge cases that the system, this is how a human would have driven through that scenario, because it's just so complex. It's like, some master thinking about knowing how the world works. The system is teaching itself. They do not do what they did in the past. Dr. John Gibbs has been explaining this, comparing how it used to be done in the past, where they would create a neural network, they would feed it rules, they would do the labeling, and eventually the system learned that that's a stop sign. Mm-hmm. And even if it's covered by, hedges, and there's all these variations to a stop sign that are out there, but they fed it, they taught it, and now it knows how to recognize stop signs in all these variations. They don't have to do anything.
Do that anymore. Yeah.
The system just figures it out on its own, just like you and I would if we were driving down and we go, I recognize that as a stop sign, but nobody had to teach me something, right? Anyway, that's what's new.
All right.
I don't know how many people know that. So,
yeah. All right. Well, again, you are the milestone guy. I'm very excited to hear about this new project that you're going to do, where you're going to keep this tight registry of the events in the world of Tesla. That sounds like a lot of fun to do, as well as to be able to have access to. So looking forward to seeing that. As always, Herbert, great to have you on the show. And for all of you out there, you need to follow Herbert. You need to be, if you're not watching Brighter with Herbert and watching his Gang of Four, I know you don't call it the Gang of Four, you have another name for it, something about bulls, Tesla bulls. Anyway,
cyber bulls.
There's all kinds of ways you can have fun with that one. But anyway, that's a great show to watch. But yeah, follow Herbert on Twitter as well. And then, I think you have a Patreon channel. You have a Patreon thing, right? Yeah, you should look him up on Patreon. I'm sure he'd appreciate your help in that regard as well. All right, hit like if you liked having Herbert on, and that'll tell me what? It'll tell me to have him back again. So, Herbert, thanks again.
Thank you so much, Randy. See you.
All right, for all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.